I'd love to know your name and what you do, my dear.
My name is Vania, and I'm a patient care tech in a hospital coming out of home health care for the last 7 years. So just switched to the hospital setting. It's very new, working 12 hours.
What do you specifically do in your job? What kind of
Anything with like patient daily, like living in the hospital, like vitals, EKGs, other than like intravenous stuff.
wow. How long are your shifts sometimes?
12 hours, 7:30 to 8 p.m.
I applaud you. That is
Yeah, so I'm just coming off a
long.
12-hour shift. So
What do you
yeah.
do to kind of keep yourself going? Like, do you do
Ooh,
anything but in you?
just the adrenaline, I guess. Once I'm there, it's just like just constantly moving. So it's not
That's
that
true.
bad. Yeah, I've gotten used to the 12-hour shift quicker than what I thought I was.
That's still a lot, and you have to be on your
Yeah,
toes and so
yeah.
alert.
Oh yeah, the feet were a major problem when I first got started. I
Oh,
was just like,
right.
"Oh my God, how
So
am I
you're
gonna do this?"
standing? You're standing
Yeah, I
for
mean, stand most of the majority of the time standing and walking, standing and walking. I do have some downtime, so it's not constant, but when you're just getting used to it, it's a big difference and it takes a toll. But now I'm like, I
wow.
kind of do it like it's nothing. So
That's a lot.
yeah.
What got you into this career?
I just always kind of like to help my grandparents around when I was younger and I just had always had a need to like just care and help for people. So it kind of transitioned into the job field. So it was an easy transition.
We're gonna get into your story, but do you feel like kind of going more deeply into your job and what you do has helped in the healing process of what you've been through?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've always been a selfless person. So, I mean, I could say I not even worried about my situation. At times I was just so focused on the betterment of other people and not even myself, even though looking back on it now, you definitely should take that time, to reconnect with yourself because you can't pour into somebody if you're empty. And I was empty for a long time, but I still gave my best to those people that I was working with.
I'd like to hear a bit about what you went through and what your story is.
Yeah. Where do I begin?
Mm.
Well, I guess I'll start from the beginning. So I met my ex in early February of 2014. Started off very normal, I guess I would say. Very affectionate, very attentive, like everything under the sun. There were some red flags that I noticed like early on, how he would just kind of like switch demeanors like very suddenly. It kind of just like took me off guard. You kind of think like, okay, well maybe he's like having an off day, like you kind of don't think it's gonna go like bizarre later. Like it started off very like even though it was weird, but kind of like harmless in a way. Like I kind of just brushed it off.
Like we all kind of go through
So
those
right,
moments
yeah,
of ups
yeah.
and downs,
Yeah, the ups and downs. So,
Right.
yeah, 2014, we were dating. Everything was, pretty cordial and cool, normal. Kind of towards the end of 2014, going into 2015, I kind of got some inkling that he was talking to another girl at the time. And I kind of questioned him about it, and he kind of like blew it off. So then the new year rolls around, and that same February of 2015, he got arrested for assaulting this girl that he had been seeing that I didn't know anything about.
Was it the same person you were suspicious of, or?
Yeah, yeah, the same person. I
Oh.
kind of like, oh, who is that? Like,
Mm.
at that time, this is probably 10 months later, it was still very new that I had known him. So prior to that, I had kind of got an inkling that he was, I don't know what made me suspicious about, I just felt like he wasn't being honest about certain things. So he would always be like very secretive. Like when he came over and was like, he would always put his wallet underneath my bed. So I knew he always put his wallet underneath my bed. So one day he came over and we were in the basement and someone just told me like, go check his wallet. So I came upstairs and I looked at his wallet and the last name and the age did not match what he initially told me of
No,
what
that's how you found
it
out.
yeah, so that's how I found out that his last name was different and that his age was different than what I thought he was. Like I because I was 20 when we met, so he was saying that he was 23 at the time, I think. She was actually like 28.
Oh, that's a
And
big jump.
yeah, so I never said anything about that information that I found. I just kind of took it and kind of like I don't know what I planned on doing with that information. So then 2015 he got arrested and so it was still very new that I was getting to know him. And at that time you kind of be like, you don't want to believe certain things, so now that he was getting arrested, he had to come clean about a lot of things because like now you want me to be like visiting you or calling you. So I have to know certain information, like real information about you because you're in the system now. So he was like, yeah, I lied and I'm sorry about that. And I had other things on my record that I didn't want you to know about. And, I just got nervous and, this whole spill, blah, blah, blah. So, but like he was like, no, she's lying. I didn't do anything. Like it was a misunderstanding. Like it was just like a whole situation. And at the time you don't really know who to believe. Like you kind of hear little tidbits of this situation, but then all you really have to go on is his side of the story. So it's just like, okay, well, I'm gonna believe you, da da da. So
Mhm.
we continue, being in that relationship while he was in jail, and that lasted a good almost 2 years. He did time for that,
So you were
and
together for those 2 years?
mhm, yep,
Yeah.
those 2 years, and then like constantly on the phone, writing letters. Mind you, I still had a full time job. I was writing 2, 3 letters a week, going to visit him
Wow.
2 times a week. Like it was excessive, and like the amount of stuff that I still did for him in the midst of still trying to live my life, now it's kind of like baffling me. But even then, when he was in jail, he would just get irate and hang up the phone and you were supposed to do this and da da da, just talking like mad crap. And it was still just being very disrespectful. Before he went in, he was always very emotionally and mentally abusive. Like he would be just mad disrespectful. So that lasted like 2 years. He ends up getting out kind of like out of the blue, I would say, because I had went to court and it was like, okay, yeah, he'll do a couple more months or something like that. And then probably like that same weekend, he was like, okay, well, I'm getting out tomorrow. And I was like, huh? Like, what are you talking about? And he's like, no, no, yeah. So they said something went through. He got out. So I didn't really think anything of it. So the next day, when he was like, okay, yeah, I'm getting released, he's like, okay, can you come and get me? So mind you, he had something else that he had to go to Virginia for, some peace order or something where basically he had to get detained, from where he was at in Maryland and go to Virginia. So he was being held in Virginia at the time. So I dropped what I was doing, went and picked him up out of the blue, and I took him. He had to stay with one of his child's mothers at the time. She lived in Baltimore. That's the crazy part about it. It's like you went and picked him up, and now he's going to another girl's house. Like think about it. He's like it was just so caught up in the whirlwind of
Yeah,
just
now
like
you're like,
his
"Wait."
yeah his
But
story, just like I was like, but at the time, I'm living with my parents. I'm like, well, you can't come here, so you don't have no choice but to go there. And he's like, oh, I don't want to go there. So he goes there, and he ends up staying there for probably about a couple months till he fucks that up, and he has to leave. So then he was like, okay, well, can you ask if I could stay with you, for a little while? And mind you, when I was thinking that he was going to stay here, I was like, okay, it'll probably be like a few days
And with
or,
your parents
yeah, with
there.
my mother and my stepfather. So they was like, okay, they agreed, because they, met him, before all this happened, thinking it's just going to be like a quick little thing. And, so that ended up turning into like a year and a half that he stayed here. Yeah. So, yeah, he stayed here for a
That's
year
a
and a
while.
half, and yeah, very well. And so I didn't think, it was still kind of like a toxic relationship, like I said, with the verbal and mental abuse that he would do, but nothing physical at that time. Not even an inkling of it could get physical. So, because I was under the roof with my parents, so I figured that's probably why he never progressed any further to do anything. So, probably towards the end of 2017, we were in the midst of looking for an apartment and all this stuff. I think I probably got my first reality check of what he could be capable of doing. He did like this adult football league, and we were about to go to one of his games or whatever. I don't know what we were arguing about or bickering about. So we get in the car and he's just going off. So he met one of his friends to do something. So we had pulled over before we had got like over in the highway to meet one of his friends. And where we were, it's kind of like a police station, not too far from where we were. So because he was being so irate and ridiculous, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna leave. So I pull off as he's with his friend at the car. So I'm like, shoot, he left his phone in the car. So I'm like, oh. So now I got to turn around. So then he turns around, and of course, as him trying to get the phone, he jumps back in the car, and then he's just going off. He's like, oh, you trying to get me arrested? Like, why would you pull this shit right in front of the police station? Da da da. So we drive back to the house. I was like, no, I'm going home, not taking you out there. Da da da. My mom and my stepfather were out of town at the time. So we get back to the house, and we still just bickering, and he's going off. So I try to call my mom, and I run towards the bathroom. So he's trying to follow me and chasing me. I'm like, no, just leave me alone. Just leave me alone. So then we come back out to the front, and I'm trying to leave out the front door, and he kind of grabs me and he chokes me for a minute. And he was like, just kind of like in this scuffle. And so I remember like swinging on him, and he was like, "Did you just punch me?" And so I'm like, "I'm trying to get you off of me." We ended up, leaving because my mom's call, and she was like, "Y'all need to chill out." Da da da. Mind you, she didn't know all this had just transpired. So, long story short, we ended up going to the game, and then he reversed back. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm trying to have a good day. Da da da. And mind you, like I don't know if it was. I think it was from the scuffle. Like I think I might have cut my lip, so my lip was kind of like cut. And he's like, oh, I'm just trying to have a good day and not trying to do anything. And, blah blah blah. We're gonna be this and that and that. It always just ends up blowing over. So that was like the first inkling of like, okay, he just kind of like put his hands on me. But even then it didn't really register to me like what had just happened. And so
Mm.
we proceeded with going forward and moving into our apartment.
Oh,
And
so you moved in together.
we moved in together probably about maybe 2-3 months after that little altercation. So like every time I tell people, it's like as many good moments that I've had with him, I can think of a bad moment just at the same time that happened. He's just like it was always a pattern. Like every time something was going good or well, like he would end up finding some way to like something would throw his mood off and just like what happened? Like we were having a good day. Like why are you now flipping out and now you got a whole, it's just ridiculous. And so, just with us moving in, one of my clients at the time when, I did home health care, they had tickets to see Beyonce. And they was like, okay, you want to come? You got 2 tickets. So I was like, okay, yeah, we'll come. So me and him went. And mind you, we just signed a lease to our apartment, got the keys. It was a good day. We got our own place. Da da da. We're about to go see Beyonce. Like, why wouldn't it be a good day?
It's a pretty good day.
So, we he was like, oh, we should stay out of our apartment. And I was like, we don't have no furniture here. I'm not about to lay on the floor. And he was like, okay. So we go back to my mom's house. And mind you, we stop at Taco Bell. And so he was like, okay, I get tacos. And I don't want lettuce on my tacos. So I said, okay, no lettuce. Of course you tell people what not to put on there, but it's fast food. They're gonna fuck it up. So we get home and he looks at the taco. He's like, oh, I thought I told them no lettuce. I said, oh, they put lettuce on it? He said, yeah, they put lettuce on it. And I was like, okay, well, here I am, like, getting, like, worked up, because you get into that, you don't realize you get into that fight or flight mode because you're trying to you feel the situation escalating. So, okay, I can scrape it off. Like, it's like almost like a 2-year-old. It's like a child mentality. Like, okay, I can scrape it off, or do you want mine? Trying to just bring the situation back down. And he was like, no, I'm good. So he just closes up and kind of throws it off to the side. And I was like, okay, well, do you want mine? And he not saying anything. He just turns his back, puts the cover over his head, and didn't talk to me the rest of that night.
So you
I was
didn't even
just
eat?
like, he didn't eat.
You
And
still didn't
then
eat.
I'm over here
Okay.
because the now my mood has gone down from such a high, and now it's coming down, and it's like, yeah, I'm eating, but I'm just like, I don't, you ever get that feeling where like, okay, I'm eating, but I don't really want it. So it's like, now you spoiled it for me because it's like, you really like it's kind of a messed up situation, like when you go to such a high moment and then you
Mhm.
get dropped down and then you like, okay, what happened? Like, now you're not gonna talk to me because your food is wrong. And it's just like, I don't know, when people ignore you, especially somebody that you care about, when they ignore you, that does something to you. It's just like, you feel like shit. Like, okay, now I'm like, okay, now we didn't got our apartment and you're not talking to me because you got lettuce on your tacos. So, but that was a pattern. That ended up being a pattern. Like every good moment that we had, or every moment that wasn't about him, he had to make it about him, or he would pout about it or throw a fit, or it would be my fault that, something went wrong. So it was that, that definitely became a pattern in our, throughout our relationship. And probably the very first physical altercation that I could remember, it was definitely around Christmas. I don't know if it was Christmas Eve, Christmas. It was one of them. And he was, pouting about something because I went to my mom's house, to open stuff and spend Christmas with them. So I came back. I'm like, okay, we're gonna open our gifts, da da da. I got you stuff, da da da, trying to make it, a fun thing. And he was like, no, I don't want to open nothing. I remember my mom telling me, that's your house. You need to stand your ground. And I don't want her to see this and think that that's is her fault, because it's not. But so the very moment, I remember kind of standing up to him and like, no, kind of like, I mean, I guess going back and forth. So in that moment, I was like, no, we can open our gifts and stuff, da da da. And he was, I think, standing by the door or something. And I had went over to him and I was like talking to him, not even arguing, just kind of talking to him. I remember him just like swinging on me and like hit me and like the side of my face. And so it was like very shocking. Like, I kind of was just like in disbelief, that it had happened. So after that, I was just quiet and I kind of think I went in the bathroom or something and just tried to compose myself for a minute. I think it like some time went past and then he would just like always he would never like come back or like apologize in a way. He would just be like, because I would be quiet. He would just be like, well, "What's wrong with you?" I'm like,
Interesting. Interesting.
I said, "Well, you just hit me, like you just hit me in my face. Like, why
Yeah.
did you do that?" Da da da. He was like, "Well, man, it would kind of just be like a, oh, well, I told you, or something like that, along those lines." And I
Mm,
think what people also don't realize is it's like before you get to the actual physical altercation and domestic violence, before then you're already in a pattern that you're not aware of. So you're already trained into this victim state of mind. So before that even happened, you're kind of like already on like a autopilot type thing. You're already trained to kind of like just be like, not even aware of like certain explosive things that are happening. I just kind of brushed it off because I just really didn't know where to begin, during that time. And then you kind of get stuck in that theme of like, even though I had people outside of that relationship, it's just like when you're in those situations, your abuser most of the time is the one that brings you back down. Like they're the ones, even though they're inflicting pain on you, they're the ones that are comforting you in a way after it. So it's just like
yep.
you kind of learn to like lean on them in a way because in my case, I was more so ashamed of um, having to go back home or, I was just getting on my feet and like, oh, I got my own place. It felt good to have my own, and I didn't really want to go back to that starter zone of like, being at my parents' house, just kind of like that immature state of mind. But, looking back on that, it's just like, I much rather be in a safe space, no matter where I am, than to be in the environment that I was living in for 2 years. That just became a pattern. Like certain situations would arise, and he would either get really irate, even if it wasn't physical towards me. We had so much damage in our apartment throughout those 2 years from him either punching holes in the doors,
Really.
um, throwing and when you're in an apartment, it's nothing but drywall, so that wall
Yeah.
is gonna break very easily. Him throwing a chair in the door, and it had this big old hole in it, and him just constantly punching like the bedroom closet doors. There's so many holes in it. And then, of course, after a while, you be like, it's only so many tickets you could put in for maintenance to come fix this. Because I'm like, okay, what's going on? Why are there so many holes in this wall? You
Yeah.
know, and that became embarrassing, you know, to get people to fix too. But so probably like for a good almost year, our bedroom doors were just off the hinges, just on the corner and just broke because he didn't want to call and people to see that. I didn't want to call and for people to see that. So so yeah, it was just constantly, stuff just getting broke around the house. My grandparents had bought me a car from the one I was driving at the time. The radio, it didn't work already in the car. It was a used car. The radio didn't work, but it still had the screen and everything. So it just needed something that, it would still work possibly. It just needed like a new wire or something like that. So but it was still, new, just needed something to be fixed. So he would take my car sometimes and get attitudes like him and other girls he would get pissed off about. So he's in the car and I come back the next day, look at my car, and the radio screen is broke from him punching it. So I'm just like, you and that's the thing is like you have no care for other people's stuff, but the minute you touch something of his, or the minute you move something out of place of his, is all hell breaks loose. But it's like, but you just punch the screen in my car and broke. You're like, for what? Like, and you just don't care. You don't have no money to pay for that. So it was just like, okay, so but that was his thing. He just constantly breaking stuff, constantly just malfunction with everything, just everything under the sun. That just became the pattern in our relationship. And I was just so used to the back and forth of the highs and lows that you don't even realize that you're going through, all this drama. So I remember one day he was mad. I said something about his phone. He was on his phone. We were laying in the bedroom. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna leave. Constantly, leaving, coming back, leaving, coming back. And so I'm taking the clothes because we had it wasn't a laundry room in the place. So I'm taking the clothes with me. So I get to the door and I open the door. Mind you, I got clothes on and I got like I think I had my coat on. I get to the door and I open it and he charges after me and like swings me and like swings me from the door, shuts the door and like punches me. And so I ran back to the room. We kind of just like in a scuffle or whatever. So I just remember and he, still he wouldn't like acknowledge what he had just done. It was always just like, oh, da da da. It was never an acknowledgement of like, oh, I just hit you, or oh, I'm sorry, I just hit you, da da da. And so we're just in this scuffle, just like for a minute, and it ends up calming down. He's like, all right, well, just lay down, da da da. And so I take a shower, I lay down. And mind you, this is in the middle of the night. So this is late at night. I gotta go to work tomorrow. So I get up and go to work like nothing happened. And I just remember being, sore from like the constant, physical fighting that I was just doing last night. And my lip was bruised. And so I kind of avoided my clients that day, for a couple of days, you know. And it's just like you don't realize the lengths that you go through to kind of like hide certain things.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so it was just like just a constant just
So you would have bruises and
fight.
stuff.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
had
And would you
bruises.
would you cover them with makeup, or how would
Um,
you?
well, the only physical bruise that I really sustained that you could probably see that was on my lip, it kind of went away in a few days, so I didn't really cover that up. Um, all the other times are like more so on the side. I remember the time when I was carrying the clothes out, he had swung me back. He had hit me on the side, like my ear, and I remember the next morning he was like, "Oh, you need to clean the back of your ear." And I was like, what do you mean?" And he's like, "You have blood on the back of your ear." So I remember wiping my ear and I was like, "Oh," like I didn't know. But so like
Sheesh.
the back of my ear had split open.
Oh my
And
goodness.
yeah, I didn't know that until the next morning. So yeah, it wasn't really any physical bruises on my face. They were a lot of the times I would get bruises like on my legs because sometimes when we would get into stuff, I would like barricade myself and keep the bed in between us. So like when I was moving, I would get bruises from like trying to maneuver around things. Yeah, that was probably the only throughout that time. The only bruise that I got was probably on my lip that you could physically see. and that went away with like in a couple days, so nobody, saw that. And the other one was like behind my ear, or on my the bruises were on my legs that nobody could see, or on my arms. I know the one when my parents weren't home, when we were in the scuffle, I had like a couple big bruises on my arms. And I remember him telling me I was about to go out in the living room, like once my mom was here. He was like, "You need to put on a long sleeve shirt." And I was like, "Why?" Because I really never really see the bruises. It would like be behind my arm. And he was like, "You need to put on a long sleeve shirt." I was like, "Why?" And he was like, "You got something on your arm, like something on my arm." And I was like, "Oh,
uh,
okay." So yeah, so I would just cover them up.
Yikes.
Yeah.
And after that, that led to the big event.
Leading up to that, it was just probably the pandemic was like the heightened of him just being very withdrawn with me. He didn't want to be around me. He was a constant cheater, constant women in my apartment, because I
So
would find little.
he'd bring
Mhm,
women. Okay.
yeah. Um, I would find little stuff like other from other women like in my apartment, and then when I would leave, which was weird, that I kind of noticed. It was just like I would have shoes by the door or something, but he would always like move my stuff around, like kind of like hiding it in a way. So every time I would come in,
Oh,
I'm like, why is my stuff moving? Like your stuff is still sitting out here perfectly, but why is everything that I own like kind of like off to the side, or like back in the room where nobody can see it? So
interesting. Yeah,
he,
like, oh,
yeah,
it's
so he would,
reorganizing.
yeah, yeah, only my shit though.
Yeah.
But so he
Yeah.
would constantly just like move my stuff around, constantly have women, um, different women back and forth in my apartment, while I was at work.
And this was also
And
during the pandemic, so he was actually
yeah, oh, this is soon after we moved in together, up until the last day we lived together. He had went constant women in and out, in and out, in and out.
was he
And
were you still working during this time?
oh
During all
yeah,
of
yeah, I
this?
worked the whole duration, you know, the whole
Oof.
duration of that. And so yeah, it's constantly I would find little stuff from other women, and
How did he have the time for this? Did he have a job?
no.
Ah,
So yeah, so he got fired probably about, probably maybe about 6 months after we moved into the apartment.
wow.
Yeah, so he was a manager at a hotel. He had a good job. But
Interesting.
he couldn't compose himself. He would always get into just stupid stuff, and they let him go. So of course,
Mm.
he's always like, "Oh, I'm looking, da da da," or "Oh, because I got a record, I can't find anything," and da da da. He wasn't trying. So so yeah, so that was his main job of just cheating and full-time job.
Wow.
So he had a full-time job. It just wasn't paying what it needed to
No.
be.
No,
but
definitely not.
yeah, so yeah, it was constantly
So it just kept going
cheating,
on.
yeah, going, and then he would get into stuff with other women. So it was just like he was just going down a downward hill fast, and then he would I also noticed that it wasn't so much behind closed doors anymore. Like he would have like little outbursts, like when we were out in public, like he would
Oh.
get really irritated. I remember it was a store right around the corner from our apartment, and we were in there, and some girl came out of the store, and I think she kind of like she didn't really bump into me, but she was kind of like in passing, and like she was very close to me, but she didn't say excuse me, even though it was rude as shit, but it's not that big of a deal, whatever. So he's like, why you ain't say nothing? Why you let that girl just walk all over you? I'm about to go say something. I'm like, no, you just come back in here. Let's just do what we about to do in the store. So he leaves, gets in the car, and I don't know if he went to go follow this person or yeah, completely leaves me at the store. So I'm like, so I'm calling him, like, where are you at? Like, why, first of all, you taking my car. Why you leaving me in the store? And then he was like, I'm over here trying to defend you and you getting the attitude with me. And the girl asked me, oh, she should be glad that you making up some shit. She should
Right.
be glad that you sticking up for her, da da da. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, just getting real pissed off and annoyed. And so he was like, nah, you can walk home. Mind you, this is I can't quite remember what month this is, but it was cold. It was cold.
He had you
And
walk home?
it's right around the corner, but nobody wants to walk home.
Also, that's
Not in the
mad
cold.
disrespectful.
Right. Yeah, my
I'm
disrespectful that you
sorry.
took
So
my
someone
car.
bumps into you, and his way to help you and be supportive is to leave you to walk home. That's
Yeah,
very, very
leave.
logical.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank
So
goodness he was there
so
to defend
I
you by leaving you there. That was
exactly.
really brave.
Yeah, so I had to walk home. It was like a 5-minute walk around the corner as he takes my car, goes in the apartment. Mind you, my keys and everything are on my key ring. I just remember, sitting at on the steps of my apartment, and my neighbors came out. She said, "Are you okay?" I said, "Yeah, I'm fine." And so mind you, I'm texting him like, "Let me in the apartment. Like it's cold out here. What are you doing?" And then so like some time goes by, and he's like, "The door been open. Like what are you talking about? I've been say to come in." I'm like, "Door has not been like," and that's always the manipulative game he would play. Like you just had the door locked. I couldn't get in. You had the keys, but then he was like, "Door's open. Like what are you talking about?" Like da da da. They would always like flip
No,
and
no,
just like,
no accountability. Basically,
yeah,
it's
no
like,
accountability at all.
no,
No,
no.
no. So yeah, it was just constant situations like that. Situations where I would be like in the house already, like normal day, and he would get an attitude, and then I'm laying back in the room, and then I start getting text messages. It's like, oh, funny how you doing this and da da da. Just goes down this whole rant. It was like, what are you talking about? Like we were just cool literally an hour ago, and now you're flipping the switch. So mind you, this is I think probably January. It's cold. It's snowing outside. He was like, "Well, you should just leave." And so of course now you back in that fight or flight mode, and I'm starting getting nervous. He's getting irate. You should leave. So I'm just packing up my stuff. And it's like, I mean, I'm not gonna go home because if I go home, my mom's gonna be like, well, first of all, why are you here in the middle of the night? Like, what's going on? I didn't want to go down that whole road of like the
Right.
questions being asked, da da
Explaining
da.
all
So
that. Yeah.
yeah, so it was a lot of shame that came with it. So I remember just, I was like, okay, well, I'm not gonna go back in the house. So then he's just yelling, oh, and I'm just texting him like, oh, let me back in the house. It's cold, da da da. Silent. Didn't say anything for the rest of the hour. Mind you, it was probably about midnight, maybe 1 o'clock in the morning.
Your own house.
Didn't didn't say anything. No, my own house. I'm sitting in the car. It's freezing cold. I gotta be to work in a few hours, and I'm in my car. So laid in my car. I don't think I went to sleep, but I just stayed in my car for like the couple hours till it was time for me to get on the road to go to work, and I just went to work. Yeah,
Sheesh.
yeah,
So this is just a, as they say, roller coaster, essentially.
yeah. Roller coaster.
And when you're on the roller coaster, it's hard to see, the scenery. around
Right,
you because you're just like
right.
zooming up, down, up, down, up, down.
Hmm.
And everyone's
Yeah,
like, "Can't you see the trees?" It's like, "Bro, no, I can't see the
right.
trees. I
No, can't see
I
anything.
can't see anything. I'm just trying
I
to
can't see anything.
survive at this point,
Exactly.
and I don't
Yeah.
know how to really even, stop this ride and trying to
Right.
think about it while on the ride. Like,
Mhm. So yeah, so that happened, and then in between time, I was constantly, he had to do anger management and stuff for the other situation that he had went to jail for. But he wasn't taking that seriously. He was just doing it because he had to do it. It was just constantly trying to find ways of, hey, let me help you,
mhm.
um, because he was a victim of abuse as a child, as an adolescent, I should say. He saw his mother be abused. He was abused. Sister was abused, physically, sexually, all of them. Um,
Yeah,
growing up in that house, and with knowing that information in the back, that kind of played
yeah,
on my mental, like, oh well, he's doing this because he went through that.
you
So that
kind of.
played a role on me too.
When did you find out about his past in that regard? Like, was that?
When he had got incarcerated the first time,
Oh, so he told
he
you
had
while he was.
he went into depth about his childhood and all that. And
That would be the time
yeah,
that
because
people
you have nothing
come.
but time.
Yeah,
So yeah,
I
so
see.
it was just constantly trying to go back and forth, getting you this help, that help, take you here, take you there. Me and his mother had I believe it's called a 5150 when you believe somebody is a risk to themselves or to other people.
Yes,
So you try to
right.
um basically um they basically try to take custody of this person and try to take them and
Yeah.
get help, da da da. So he couldn't force him to go. So he did agree to initially just like, okay, I'm gonna go.
Oh,
And he was at this facility probably 5 hours. And then he texted me later on that night and was like, oh, I'm on my way to you to get the key because I'm going home. And I was like, huh? You leaving? He's like, yeah, I'm not staying here. Like, I'll do what I have to do, but I'm not going to stay here. Da da da. So, and they couldn't force him to be there. So
no, they
he left.
can't.
Yeah, he left a few hours later. So yeah, that was probably about September. So yeah, it was constantly just trying to, I was just constantly as much crap as he was putting me through. It was me constantly just trying to help you, which is crazy because like you're not doing anything to help me, but here I am like killing myself practically to like get you some help so you won't go back to where you were. I
I
was
mean,
just like on
I feel like
autopilot.
an empathic person
Yeah,
would do that. They would
yeah,
choose others above themselves and
right, yeah. And
also,
at the end of the day, they
yeah.
know that too. So they play on that emotion. So yes, I was just kind of just stuck in autopilot, which I didn't know I was in autopilot and thinking I'm doing a good job at hiding, certain things that are going on. And I remember my mom asked me, like, she's like, so what is it gonna take? How much does he have to do for you to leave?
Right.
And when she asked me that, it's just like, um, I really couldn't answer that question because this is like, I mean, he's done everything a person could do
Well,
for
she didn't
you
know,
to,
right? She
right. She
didn't
didn't
know
know, but I know she had an inkling
that
of
something was
he
wrong.
was probably, yeah. She was like, he's done everything, he possibly can to show you that he's disrespected you, he doesn't appreciate you, and he's like, he's done everything but hit you. And he was like, but she said, but I don't, you haven't told me that. So I would just get quiet when she said that because he was, at that time he had started being physical with me. Um,
But as
so
you said,
I would just,
it's embarrassing though in a way.
yeah, it's
There's a level
embarrassing.
of like
It's
I don't want
shame.
to shame. Yeah, it's that feeling of
Hmm.
oof. I don't know if I want to admit this.
Right,
That
right,
it's like you feel in a sense a bit weak and
right.
it's like, well, I'm not weak.
You
Yeah.
feel weak because it's like consciously you know right from wrong, but it's just like
Yeah.
people it's very hard to explain for with people that haven't been in that situation. It's just like it's a mental hold on you that you really can't even process of like, I don't know how to get out of it though. It's just
Mm-mm.
like, and I will, say that all the time. I remember getting so mad at my mom and, my sister and just like, they're like, well, what's it gonna take? Da da da. And I would just get real mad and defensive, every time they would ask me. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember my grandmother because my mom had told my grandmother about certain situations that had transpired with him. And she was just like, what's going on, between you two? And, you know, she was like, she said that he doesn't have a job and, just kind of just reiterating the whole situation to me. And, I didn't want to hear, I didn't want to face the truth,
Yeah.
and that conversation always upsets me even more so now because she just passed away in May. And
Sorry.
I would just get, I just got really defensive with her. And she was like, why are you being like this? I'm your grandmother. I love you.
Yeah.
And that did hurt me because it's like I couldn't get out of it, but I didn't know how to process it.
Well,
And
yeah, and sometimes we
yeah,
do lash out in a way because that's the only
yeah,
way we know how to deal with the emotions we're suppressing
right, yeah.
without
And
actually owning it, right?
right, owning, yeah,
Yeah.
owning it. And so she was just like, I remember she called me back and she's like, I just wanted to apologize. I didn't mean to upset you. I just love you, da da da. And it's just like that just that it still hurts me to my soul that I got so mad at her. But
Well, you weren't mad at her.
I did, yeah, I
You weren't
wasn't
mad at
mad at her. I was
her.
mad at the
You meant
situation.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so it just that's what people don't understand, that it's hard for even people outside of your situation to see somebody that they love, going through something and you don't know how to help them. So
Right. The flip side. Yeah.
yeah, so I never, unfortunately, I never got the courage to really apologize to her, while she was still here, but when she did pass away, I had a moment with her
Yeah.
when it was just, us alone in the room. And I told her that I was sorry, for, being upset at her because it wasn't towards her. And I know that she was
She
doing it,
knows. She
yeah.
knows. Yeah.
So, so yeah, so that was very upsetting to me that, somebody that I had cared for and, was just making me, really turn against people that really
That
did love
loved you.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really love you. I
And
know. That's what they do though.
yeah, it's messed up. It's messed up. So
Mm.
so yeah, so that was kind of like a trickle effect of like certain people in my family kind of knowing and opening up to me about, things. And
Right.
probably about a few months before the um assault that I endured, at the end of that relationship, my best friend had came over to do my mom's hair, and she was asking her, like, what's going on with Vania? I just feel like we're not as close as we were. I feel like she's distant, and I've known her since sixth grade. And she's like, yeah, I just feel like something's going on. Like we're not as close. And so, mind you, I hadn't told my friend, an inkling of like all the disrespect, all the abuse, none of that. I ain't never told her anything bad, about him. So my mom had kind of like gave her a brief rundown of certain situations that happened, and you know his past, of doing, abusing people, and also. So she called me one day and she's like, yeah, she said, so what's going on? And I said, what you mean? And she's like, so what's going on with, such and such, you know, what did he go to jail for? And I was like, I'd rather not say. And she was like, okay. And she was like, well, do you know what you need to do? And I said, well, I need to leave. And she's like, yeah. So she said, how are you gonna leave? And I said, well, I don't know. I'm just gonna pack my stuff and, kind of gave her a rundown. And she's like, yeah. She said, because I had a dream about you, that you were trapped and I couldn't get to you. And it was like this monster presence behind you that wouldn't let me get to you. And you were just saying that you were trapped. And when she told me that, I was just like, it kind of made me break down because, like, that's exactly how I feel. It's just like I do feel trapped, and I didn't know how to release myself out of it. And so even then, that was still probably a couple months prior to this assault, and still just trying to find the bearings to leave physically. And
Right.
so I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm gonna stop at my apartment, and because mind you, I wasn't there because he had an attitude or whatever. And so I text him and said, oh, I'm gonna stop by. And in a way, I was kind of trying to put him on notice that I was coming by, because it's just
Mhm.
like it's a weird situation, because it's like, this is my house. Why am I putting you on notice that I'm about to stop by? But because of his violent behavior and tendencies, I knew, like, okay, maybe I should kind of see what kind of state of mind he's
Yeah,
in,
like what's his mood right now?
Yeah, yeah. So, but he never answered. So I said, okay, I'm gonna just, show up and go.
Mm.
So when I get there, he's laying on the couch asleep, and I open the door, and he kind of like jumps up, and I said, oh, I'm just here because I was got my shot, wasn't feeling good, so I'm gonna just, I just need a minute to get myself together. So he didn't say anything.
In your own
So
house.
I'm in the bathroom. Yeah, I'm in the bathroom, and he was like, "Oh, well, how long you gonna be?" So, so I stay in the bathroom for a minute, and it just had that feeling. I kind of broke down when I was in the bathroom, because I'm just like, I was always trying to see how much he would care, like, in a way, just like, are you? Do you have any sympathy, like sympathy for me, or any care, about what I'm going through? So I had a moment in the bathroom. So I ended up leaving out. And so then, as I'm going back downstairs, it kind of turns into what they call, I guess, reactive abuse. It's just like, so now I'm kind of pissed off that you didn't respond. And that's the crazy part about it, because now I'm caught up in your cycle. So now I'm doing like little tendencies to try to get in to like see if you have some type of emotion towards me.
Right.
So now that kind of made me upset. So I tried to go back in, and I'm like, oh, you don't care, da da da. And then so he was like, I'm not gonna do this with you, da da da. So he takes out his phone and starts recording me, like I'm about to be the aggressor. So he records me. So that just pissed me off. And I remember just like, I'm tired of going through this. Like, I'm tired of not being able to come home and just have peace when I can't even walk into my own place without, feeling some way or feeling like I'm on edge. Like
It was the breaking
it
point,
really, yeah,
basically.
it was really a breaking point for me. So I text my mom and I was like, I need you to get me a storage unit. And so she was happy. All right, I'm about to call this. I'm gonna call your uncle
Like,
to get this. So
he'll be
she
there
was
in a
like,
minute.
yeah, she was like, that's all she. And I would call, I would text her and be like, prior to this, I'm like, oh, I need you to come get my stuff. I'm moving out. Like I didn't pack up that apartment so many times, before that situation. And but I will always come back. So with this time, she's like, okay, well, it ain't no turning back. You didn't pay for a storage unit. Like
We
you gotta
paid.
move your yeah, you gotta move your stuff out. So at that point it was like okay, it was kind of set in stone that I was about to get my stuff out of there. So later on that day, I text them. I'm like, I'm moving out. I would say this to them all the time, but I sent him the confirmation of the storage thing. So then when he saw that, he was like, whoa,
This is
then he's
real.
calling me. Yeah, he's calling me, wait, da da da, let's talk about this. Wait, okay, well, at least move out at the end of the month, like trying to do all these like little scenarios, like just give me a few days, don't leave me stranded, like all this like crazy,
Don't leave
back
me
and forth, back and
stranded.
forth. Yeah,
Obviously,
don't leave me
it's
stranded.
he's
Just give
playing
me
the
to the end of the month.
victim a little bit,
Yeah, yeah,
as
of
they do.
course. Just give me to the end of the month. Da da da. We can
Yeah.
work it out. Let do this. So I say it's done. It's done. And nothing else we can do about it now. So I remember him calling me like late that night. He was like, "Oh, you need to come home now and see me." Da da da. And he calling me and I'm hearing all this stuff breaking in the back and he's being like irate, no, you need to come home now, da da da, just throwing stuff, da da da, just all this craziness. So then the next day he was like, so the next day I'm like, okay, that's when my uncles and them are trying to come pick up my stuff. So I go over to the apartment and I'm waiting for them to come. So he comes out into the car and he's kind of like calm. And he was like, okay, well, they're going to move this stuff out. And I said, yeah, they're coming to move this. And he was like, okay. So he was very quiet as they were moving the stuff out, just kind of looking around. And so he was like, okay, well, he said, well, do you want to come back tomorrow and watch the game because it was Super Bowl Sunday the next day? And
Mm.
I said, okay, well, yeah, we'll see, he said, yeah, we can watch the game, da da da.
Seems
So,
innocent
okay.
enough.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm like, I'm still trying to hold on to this, like, okay, well, maybe we won't be together, but maybe we'll be friends and maybe he'll understand more, still trying to hold on to whatever little bit of something he had originally showed me. And so the next day, I'm like, okay, he said, okay, we can get pizza, da da da. So we go get pizza. I pick him up. We wait for the pizza to be done. And we walk to the store. And when we're walking to the store, he's holding my hand like just a regular old Sunday afternoon. Like, is nothing is about to transpire in the next couple hours. So we get back
That's
to
the
the apartment.
high.
Yeah, the high.
The high.
So we get back to the apartment and he was like just very kind of quiet. He's over there folding clothes, like folding up his clothes. So we the game has started. I drink a little bit of wine here and there. So I'm like, okay, you're not gonna come sit down and eat. He's like, yeah, I'm coming. So he sits down and I remember him, he's starting to cry. He's looking at his phone, like looking at videos of some place that we had went together and pictures of us, da da da. So he's crying. So I'm like, I said, "Are you okay?" And he was like, "Yeah." So I go get him a tissue, get him a
That's
tissue, hand it to him, because then you start feeling
okay.
weird, like when somebody's next to
Yeah,
you crying, and
once you,
yeah,
yeah,
it's like,
when
okay,
you
what
do.
else am I supposed to be doing? So he's crying, da, da, and I said, "Are you okay?" He said, "Yeah." So I remember seeing his face change, and it kind of turned into like a pissed off face. And I remember it was just like kind of like a, and he
Like
kind of like
after
looked
you
at me.
cried, or
Yeah, yeah, after he cried. And it was like a few minutes later, and I remember him just kind of looking at me. He was like very pissed off, like looking at me like, oh, I'm about to fight. Like that's the look he had, like very enraged look. Like, and I'm just like, okay. So I didn't say anything. So now I'm starting to feel uncomfortable.